Olivia Miles has one of the most complete basketball resumes in this class. Her official TCU bio lists her as a 3-time All-American and 3-time first-team All-ACC selection from her Notre Dame years, which tells you how long she has been viewed as an elite guard. She built her name as a player who could control tempo, create for others, and make a team feel organized the moment she had the ball.
Olivia Miles on the attack. Great passer to the corner. Big B connects with NCAA tournament eligibility. Look at the pass whipped across to Suarez, and TCU is hot out of the gates. The double came, skipped across. Miles, big step through, whip back up. Suarez, why not?
But her story also has real turns in it. She missed the 2023-24 season because of an ACL injury, then faced a major decision in 2025 when she could have gone pro. Instead, she used her extra year of eligibility and transferred from Notre Dame to TCU, announcing the move on TNT. That choice became a huge talking point because it showed she was thinking long-term about fit, joy, and development instead of just rushing to the league. That move has become a central part of how people talk about her now. AP and other recent coverage framed Miles as a player who delayed the start of her WNBA career and then positioned herself to be drafted early anyway. That says a lot about the respect around her game. Even after the injury and the transfer, she stayed near the top of the class because evaluators trust what she is as a lead guard. Publicly, Olivia Miles comes across as one of those players serious basketball fans love. She is not defined by flash first. She is defined by feel. Her appeal is in the way she sees the game, the way she sets people up, and the way she seems to bring structure to an offense. That gives her a different kind of star profile from some of the louder names in the class. That is why Olivia Miles matters in this draft. She may not be the single loudest storyline, but she might be one of the safest bets to help a WNBA team immediately. Guards who can think, pass, and lead are always valuable, and Miles has spent years proving she belongs in that category. That is why she remains one of the most respected names in the 2026 draft pool. Lauren Betts is one of the easiest prospects in this class to understand at first glance. She is 6'7", plays center for UCLA, and has built a reputation as one of the most dominant interior players in women's college basketball. Her UCLA bio highlights just how productive she has been, including huge NCAA tournament games and elite numbers in field goal, percentage, and blocks. That is the foundation of her draft case. She impacts games in ways that are hard to ignore. Her path has not been completely straightforward, though. Betts began her college career at Stanford before transferring to UCLA, and that change became part of her larger growth story. She has developed into the kind of player teams can build around, but recent attention has also focused on something deeper than basketball. In March, she wrote publicly about her mental health struggles, including receiving treatment during her sophomore season, and said she wanted to show the growth she has made. That part of her story matters because it changes the way fans connect with her. Lauren Betts is not just a dominant big. She is also someone who has shown vulnerability in public, which takes real courage when you are already one of the most visible players in the sport. UCLA and ESPN both pointed to her openness as a meaningful moment, and it adds real depth to her profile heading into the draft. On the court, though, the selling point remains simple. Betts gives teams size, finishing, rim protection, and a style that still has enormous value at the pro level. ESPN had her as the #1 prospect entering part of the cycle, and even now she remains firmly in the top group of candidates to go first overall. That tells you how seriously scouts view her game. So when fans hear Lauren Betts discussed near the top of the draft, it is not just because she is tall. It is because she combines obvious physical tools with real production and a personal story that has made her more relatable. She looks like a player who can anchor a franchise, and that is why she remains one of the most important names in the 2026 WNBA draft. Flau'jae Johnson may have the most crossover appeal of anyone in this class. On the basketball side, LSU lists her as a 5'10" guard from Savannah, Georgia, and AP recently described her as the heart and soul of LSU after her college career ended in the NCAA tournament. That captures her on-court identity well. She is not just a scorer or athlete. She is a personality, an energy source, and a player people remember. Her background helped set that up early. LSU notes she was a McDonald's All-American, the first one recruited to Baton Rouge by Kim Mulkey, and the MVP of the Jordan Brand Classic after scoring 27 points.
3 to shoot. Johnson double team right baseline. Has to take a fadeaway, and it's good. She was double teamed.
From not only the players, but the coaches.
Flies in for 2. It's to go.
Flaugier flips it up for 2.
So even before college, she had a real profile. She arrived with the kind of resume that suggested she was built for big stages. What makes Flaugier different is that her public story has never been just basketball. She is also widely known as a rapper and entertainer, which gives her a broader identity than most prospects.
I gotta like the beat. Like, the beat gotta be hard. If the beat hard, I'm gonna do anything. Like, I'm gonna go crazy. Like, it's how I feel in the moment. It's that beat. Like,
it's that beat.
It's like I could catch a flow. Like, I can make a like that. And that's how I get into it. And then I just record it in my voice memos, like the flow.
Yeah.
And I write it.
You hear that beat right here? Turn your headphones on.
Oh, okay.
Sway
I like how y'all did that.
You see how we did that, Flaugier?
I got you. I got you. Look. I said I hit the ground running like I was landing a plane. My bloodline was the ones that gave Savannah a name. They say they bet the house on me. I put it all on my chain. Shout out the moms. It wasn't a Christmas that Santa ain't came. Flow is cream, the code to me, the whole agree. I'm more than eager to kill the competition. I don't have an opposition cause they all dead. Well, somewhere in my composition, I forgot to mention I need $5 million for a proposition.
That matters in modern sports because fans do not only connect with players through box scores. They connect through personality, presence, and story. Flaugier has all three, which is why she often feels bigger than where she sits on any one mock board. And the basketball resume is strong too. Recent draft coverage has kept her among the top names in the class, while AP's March list of key prospects included her alongside the biggest names expected to go early. So this is not a case where brand is carrying the entire conversation. There is real basketball substance behind it. That is why Flaugier Johnson is such an interesting draft story. She has the talent to matter on the court and the presence to matter off it. For a WNBA team, that is a compelling combination. And for fans, she is one of the easiest prospects in this class to get invested in because her story feels larger than a normal scouting report. Tania Latson enters this draft conversation with one of the clearest identities in the class: scorer. South Carolina's official bio notes she was the nation's top-ranked shooting guard in the 2022 class, and AP reported in 2025 that she transferred to South Carolina after leading Division I in scoring at Florida State. That alone explains a lot about why people pay attention to her. Bucket getters always get noticed. Her background points to that scoring identity early. South Carolina's bio highlights her huge high school production at American Heritage in Miami, where she averaged 27.2 points, 7.0 assists, 8.0 rebounds, and 5.3 steals as a senior. Those are the kinds of numbers that tell you a player was used to carrying offensive responsibility long before college.
Fell in a little bit more, at least offensively. Latson on a heater to start with 14. Coaching certainly in her DNA, and Latson scoring in her DNA now in double figures with 10. It was Volker off the mark. Here's Latson ahead of the pack. And Tania Latson with 7.
The move to South Carolina added another layer to her story. It was not just a transfer, it was a step into one of the most demanding, visible environments in the sport. AP framed that decision as Latson joining the Gamecocks in pursuit of a national title, and more recent reporting has continued to describe her as someone who came to Columbia after 3 years at Florida State, where she had already built a reputation as one of the country's most dangerous scorers. That is what makes Tania compelling. She is not trying to convince people she can score. She already did that. The more interesting part is how that scoring translates when surrounded by elite talent and raised expectations. In other words, can she stay productive while proving she is more than just volume? That is the kind of question that follows great college scorers into the draft. Still, there is real value in a player whose main trait is that obvious. Every class needs someone who can create offense and put pressure on a defense. Latson has been that player for years. That is why she belongs in this series and why WNBA teams will look closely at her. Scoring never goes out of style, and Taniyah Latson has built her name on exactly that. Azzi Fudd feels like one of the easiest players in this draft to recognize, even for casual fans. She came into college with huge expectations after being the #1 recruit in her class, the 2021 Morgan Wooten High School Player of the Year, and the first sophomore ever to win Gatorade National Player of the Year. At UConn, that kind of resume immediately put a spotlight on her, because UConn guards are always judged against a very high standard. But Azzi's college story was never just about hype. It was also about resilience. Injuries disrupted different parts of her first few seasons, including another knee setback in late 2022.
Azzi Fudd ruled out for the season with a torn ACL and meniscus,
which kept interrupting her rhythm just as she seemed ready to explode. That is a huge part of her story because almost nobody questions the talent. The real question around Azzi has always been whether she could finally get a healthy runway and show people what she looks like over a full stretch. When she has been healthy, the answer has been obvious. ESPN's February mock had her projected #1 overall, pointing to her scoring, shooting, and defensive reliability. That is the appeal with Azzi Fudd. She looks polished, she looks prepared, she looks like the kind of player who can fit into a WNBA offense quickly, because elite shooting always translates. Off the court, Azzi's public image has always felt steady and composed. She is not sold as chaos or controversy. She is sold as calm confidence. That makes her easy to package as a pro, especially because UConn players usually arrive in the league with a built-in reputation for big game experience and structure. That is why Azzi matters so much in this draft. She is not just another prospect with upside. She is one of the clearest, ready-made star cases in the class. If a team wants shot-making, pedigree, and a player fans already know, Azzi Fudd is one of the safest names to bet on. And that is exactly why she has spent so much time near the top of the 2026 draft conversation. Awa Pham is the kind of player casual fans may not know yet, but serious draft watchers absolutely do. She is a Spanish international prospect listed by FIBA at 6'4", born on June 17, 2006, and tied to Valencia Basket. What makes her story so interesting is that she is not following the most common path into this draft conversation. She is not a major American college star. She is an international big whose profile has kept rising because of skill, versatility, and long-term upside. That alone makes her stand out.
Olivia uses a screen from Pham, hands it back, 3-ball at the top, Awa Pham, Vida hands it to Pham, Pham hesitation, spin off the glass, another 2, Awa Pham.
CBS recently put her at the top of its 2026 WNBA draft big board and its March mock draft, and noted that if Dallas took her first, she would be one of the youngest #1 picks ever. That is a major part of the intrigue. She is not being discussed as just a nice international prospect. She is being discussed as a legitimate candidate to go first overall. Her appeal is easy to understand. Recent draft coverage has highlighted her size, footwork, passing, and versatility, especially in short roll situations. That matters because modern WNBA teams want bigs who can do more than just stand near the rim. They want players who can process the floor, move the ball, and punish mismatches in different ways. Pham's profile suggests she can become that kind of player. There is also something powerful about the mystery around her. With college stars, fans usually feel like they have watched the whole journey already. With Awa Pham, there is still discovery. There is still that feeling of, wait, who is this and how high can she go? That makes her perfect for draft content because viewers feel like they are getting ahead of the curve. This is not hype built on brand alone. It is hype built on projection. So if you are trying to understand why Awa Pham matters, it is simple. She represents the most fascinating kind of draft prospect. Young, international, not fully known by the casual audience, but respected enough by evaluators to sit in the #1 conversation. That is rare. And if she hears her name first on draft night, Nobody will be able to say it came out of nowhere.
I just kind of was like, holy moly, who is that child?
Jazzy Davidson.
She put a basketball in her hand. I was like, oh gosh, that girl's going to be special.
The first thing you need to know about Jazzy Davidson is this. She is not the next Caitlin Clark, but she might be one of the first young stars since Caitlin to make people stop and say, wait a minute, this feels different, because the reason Caitlin Clark changed women's basketball was not just her talent. It was the feeling around her, the sense that every game mattered, every performance turned into a conversation, and every big moment made the audience grow. Jazzy is creating a smaller version of that feeling right now at USC, and that is why her name is starting to travel so fast. Jazzy Davidson arrived at USC as the #1 recruit in the 2025 class.
I'm Jazzy Davidson. I'm a girls basketball player and I'm a sophomore at Clackamas High School. I'm the #1 recruit in the class of 2025. I've been playing basketball since I was in kindergarten. I started just like rec ball and then I switched to AAU in 3rd grade. And ever since then, I've kind of just fell in love with it.
And that matters because stars who carry that label do not get time to hide. ESPN's freshman impact rankings put her first before the season, saying she would step into a major role immediately, with Juju Watkins out recovering from an ACL injury. So this was never a story about slowly finding minutes. This was a story about pressure from day one. USC needed production, creation, and stability, and Jazzy walked into that environment as a freshman and handled it like she belonged there. And once the season started, the numbers backed it up. ESPN lists her at around 17.9 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 4.1 assists per game as a freshman, which is already impressive. But the real stat that jumps out is the versatility. USC and the USBWA both noted that Jazzy led the Trojans in every major statistical category, including points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Not freshmen, not guards. Every player in Division I women's basketball. That is the kind of detail that makes people pay attention because it tells you she is not just scoring. She is everywhere. That is where the Caitlin Clark comparison becomes interesting. Not because Jazzy plays exactly like Caitlin, because she does not. Caitlin's game was about deep range, extreme passing volume, and offensive chaos in the best possible way.
Caitlin Clark, you see just a great little rub screen by Aaliyah Boston.
Ends up caroming to Hull. Here's Clark in transition. Clark, oh, what a look! And Hull lays it in.
Clark led the league in assists a season ago. A little look, fake, and finish from Hull.
Her passing and the way that makes her a threat from so many different places on the floor. Clark, little mid-range is good.
Jazzy's game looks more balanced and more two-way. She scores, but she also defends. She creates, but she also rebounds. She blocks shots, she gets steals. She fills every gap on the floor. So the comparison is not really style, it is impact. It is that rare freshman feeling where one player can shape the entire identity of a team. And her background matters here too. According to USC's official bio, Jazzy, full name Jasmine Jazzy Amelie Davidson, was born in Portland, Oregon, and she came in with a life built around high-level competition and big goals. USC notes that she lists winning her first gold medal as her most thrilling sports moment, wants to be an Olympic gold medalist, and enjoys things like hiking, cooking, baking, swimming, painting, and going to the beach. That gives her a grounded feel off the court. She does not come across like a manufactured star. She feels like a serious young athlete with a full life and a real sense of where she wants to go. The USA basketball piece matters too, because Jazzy is not only a college breakout, she was also part of the 2025 USA Women's U19 national team and won gold at the 2025 FIBA U19 World Cup. So when people talk about her as a future WNBA star, they are not talking about one hot month or one hot tournament run. They are looking at a player who has already been identified for years as a top-level talent, then validated it on national and international stages. That matters because real stars usually leave a trail before the mainstream audience fully catches up. Jazzy is already building that trail, Then came the moment that pushed her beyond just prospect talk and into national attention. In her NCAA tournament debut against Clemson, Jazzy scored 31 points, including the go-ahead 3 in overtime, and lifted USC to a 71-67 win. AP called it one of the standout performances of the tournament, and USC later pointed to it as one of the defining moments of her freshman year. That game matters because stars are remembered differently once they do it in March. A lot of players have nice regular seasons. The audience gets bigger when the bracket starts. Jazzy met that moment straight away. And once that happened, the awards started stacking up. On March 25th, USC announced Jazzy had been named the USBWA Tamika Catchings National Freshman Player of the Year. Then on April 1st, USC announced she had also been named the WBCA NCAA Division I Freshman of the Year. ESPN's final freshman rankings had her at #1 in the country. That is a serious combination. It tells you this is not a fan-driven social media wave. Coaches, writers, and national evaluators are all seeing the same thing. Jazzy Davidson did not just have a good freshman season, she had one of the best freshman seasons in the country. So why are people already connecting her name to Caitlin Clark? Because after Caitlin, people are looking for the next player who can become bigger than the box score. The next young star who can drive conversation, carry a program, and make fans feel like they need to watch. That does not mean Jazzy is going to become Caitlin. Caitlin was a one-of-one event, but Jazzy does have something very valuable. She already feels important. She already feels central, and in college basketball, that feeling is usually the first sign that something much bigger is coming. The scary part for the rest of the sport is that this is only the beginning. Jazzy is still just a freshman. USC's official bio makes clear she has 3 more seasons ahead, and the WBCA announcement said the basketball world is only starting to see what she can become. So when you step back and look at the full picture, the story almost writes itself. Elite recruit, immediate responsibility, historic all-around production, March breakout, National Freshman Awards, USA basketball pedigree, and a game that impacts both ends of the floor. That is not normal. That is the profile of a player who could become one of the defining names of the next era. So no, Jazzy Davidson is not the next Caitlin Clark. That is probably the wrong question anyway. The better question is this: can Jazzy Davidson become the first Jazzy Davidson, the kind of star who makes her own lane and forces everyone to stop comparing her to someone else? Right now, all the signs say yes, because what she has already done at USC is not just impressive for a freshman. It is the kind of start that makes people believe a future superstar is arriving right in front of them. If you're still watching, drop Jazzy Rising in the comments.
Sarah's the one player on the team, because she can play inside and outside, that poses the most difficult matchup for the other teams.
Sarah Strong takes it all the way. Cooper gets denied by the freshman Strong.
Sarah Strong might be the most important young player in women's basketball right now, not because she is trying to be Caitlin Clark, and not because she plays like Caitlin Clark, but because she is becoming the kind of star the sport can build around next.
Tracks it, but it's whacked away by El Alfie. Here comes the freshman Sarah Strong. Sarah Strong digs in and lays it home. A good plus in the Elite Eight. Chin to Strong. She got it.
From that area where she completely dominates under the cylinder.
Now something to watch, Rebecca. Now Strong is the 5 in this lineup as Strong connect. LA. Flood lobs it in. Chen, what a feed. And Strong.
That is the real story here. After Caitlin Clark changed the scale of attention in women's basketball, everyone started looking for the next player who could feel that big, that important, that undeniable. And right now, Sarah Strong looks like one of the best answers anyone has. She just won the 2026 AP Women's College Basketball Player of the Year award after leading UConn to an undefeated 38-0 season. And that alone tells you this is no normal sophomore season.
To women's hoops, where Sarah Strong and UConn have completed a perfect 31-0 regular season. The Huskies have won 47 in a row, tied for the 5th longest win streak in Division I history. The #1 team in the nation isn't just winning, they are crushing teams, winning by an average of almost 38 points a game.
What makes Sarah so interesting is that she does not arrive with the same kind of chaos Caitlin did. Caitlin Clark was noise, range, highlights, arguments, and endless attention all at once. Sarah Strong feels different. She feels calmer, sharper, more complete. She is the kind of player who does everything well enough that you almost stop noticing how ridiculous it is. UConn lists her at 6 feet 2, and this season she has averaged 18.6 points, 7.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 3.4 steals, and 1.6 blocks per game. That is not one-dimensional dominance. That is complete control over a basketball game, and maybe that is the first thing that separates her from most young stars. Sarah Strong does not need one signature skill to make people care. She beats teams in too many ways. UConn says she leads the nation in player efficiency, win shares, defensive win shares, and defensive rating. Against top 25 opponents, she averaged 20.3 points, 10 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 3.6 steals per game. So this is not empty production built against weak teams. The bigger the stage gets, the stronger the numbers look.
Not gonna lie, like, Sarah Strong is, no question about it, the best female college player since Caitlin Clark. And when it's all said and done, she might be the best UConn player ever. Like, she could be. That's not a crazy thing. That sounds like a crazy thing to say when Stewie is UConn. Stewie is the one player that I would say has the strongest argument against Caitlin Clark for the best individual player ever.
That is one of the clearest signs of a future superstar. Her background matters too, because Sarah Strong was not some surprise breakout. She arrived at UConn as the #1 ranked recruit, the 2024 Naismith High School Player of the Year, a McDonald's All-American, and a 2-time North Carolina Miss Basketball and Gatorade North Carolina Player of the Year. UConn says she led Grace Christian School to 3 state titles and averaged 21 points, 16.8 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and 2.8 steals in high school. In other words, the expectations were already massive before she ever played a college game. That part matters because great players are one thing. Great players who actually live up to impossible expectations are something else entirely. At UConn, the standard is brutal. You are not just asked to be good. You are asked to belong in the same world as the biggest names in the sport. Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, Paige Buchers. That is the environment Sarah walked into, and instead of looking overwhelmed by it, she has started to look like the center of it. AP reported that Gino Auriemma called her the heart and soul of the team, and when a UConn coach says that about a player this early, people notice. This is where the Caitlin Clark comparison becomes useful, but only if you use it the right way. Sarah Strong is not Caitlin Clark. She does not have the same style, the same shot profile, or the same public identity. Caitlin bent games with range and volume. Sarah bends them with balance. Caitlin felt like an offensive explosion. Sarah feels like a machine with no weakness. So the comparison is not really about play style. It is about significance. It is about whether a player feels big enough to carry the future conversation of the sport. Sarah already does. And the scary part is, she is still early in the story. She is only a sophomore. ESPN ranked her #1 in its preseason top 25 player rankings before this season even began, which meant the whole sport already saw this coming. Then she somehow exceeded that level of hype. She hit 1,000 career points in only her 59th game, which AP said made her the 3rd fastest player in UConn history to reach that mark. Again, that is not normal. That is the sort of pace that makes people stop talking about potential and start talking about legacy. There is also something important about how she is being talked about now. ESPN's recent Final Four feature was not just about her numbers. It was about how she found her voice inside a team full of expectations. Paige Buchers said Sarah's biggest flaw is her unselfishness, and also called that her superpower. That is a very telling description because it explains why Sarah can sometimes feel quieter than other stars while still completely taking over games. She is not chasing moments. She is building them through winning basketball. That makes her incredibly marketable in a different way. Caitlin Clark became a lightning rod. Sarah Strong looks more like the next great winner, the next player who can become the standard for completeness, poise, and dominance at the highest level. That matters because women's basketball does not need every new star to be a Caitlin copy. It needs new stars who feel undeniable for their own reasons. Sarah already fits that description better than almost anyone in the country. And once you stack all of it together, the case gets hard to ignore. Number 1 recruit, UConn star, undefeated season, AP Player of the Year, Naismith Trophy winner, national leader in advanced impact stats, historic efficiency, huge production against elite teams. This is not just a player having a great year, this is a player building the kind of resume that can define an era if it continues. So no, Sarah Strong is not the next Caitlin Clark. That is too small a way to frame her. The better question is whether Sarah Strong is becoming the next great pillar of women's basketball in her own image. A player who may not create the same kind of noise, but could create just as much gravity. Because right now, she is not just trending. She is not just rising. She is already here, already winning, and already forcing the sport to imagine what comes next around her. If you're still watching, drop Strong Era in the comments.